I slept with my friend's ex-girlfriend. She's claiming I got her drunk and took advantage of her. Whole friends group turned their backs on me. It all started a few weeks ago. And now my life feels like it's completely blown up. I didn't expect sleeping with my friend's ex-girlfriend would turn into this whole mess. But now I'm the bad guy in the eyes of everyone I know. I'm not sure where to begin because the situation is such a disaster. And it's left me questioning everything about this friend group that I've been a part of for over a year. I guess I should start with the fact that my friends and I are all either finishing up college or have recently graduated. Trying to navigate that strange period where you're technically an adult but still trying to figure things out. Our group is around 10 people, good friends who go camping, hiking, to music festivals, concerts, and college parties together. It's been a tight-knit crew. But that all changed because of one night. I got introduced to this friend group through my buddy P. He's been one of my best friends since high school. And a little over a year ago, he introduced me and my then girlfriend to the group. We all hit it off quickly. Especially with A and his girlfriend R. They were one of those couples who were constantly on again, off again, but nobody thought much of it since that was just how they were. It became normal to see them break up, get back together, and repeat the cycle. So when they broke up again a few weeks ago, it didn't seem like anything new. Everyone figured they'd be back together in no time. And they still hung out with the group like nothing had happened. Anyway, things between me and my girlfriend didn't work out. But it wasn't messy. She was away at another college. And this friend group was more mine than hers. So there were no hard feelings when we split. I stayed close with everyone, including A and R, and things were fine, until recently. A and R live a little over an hour away because of school and work. But R had been back in town visiting family for a few days. We got together with some friends for a couple of nights, drinking, swimming, and playing board games. I even brought a date with me, someone I'd had a fling with a few years back. But it didn't really go anywhere that night. And she left early. The night was pretty chill. Same as usual. Until it wasn't. M, one of our other friends, made a comment at some point during the night that I should take a shot at R now that she was single. I brushed him off, telling him he was drunk and to relax. But then later in the evening, I realized that I was alone, and M and R had disappeared. When I went to find them, I walked into the kitchen and immediately felt the tension. R looked uncomfortable, and I realized that M was coming on to her, and she wasn't into it. I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. So I helped steer the conversation away and we all went back to what we were doing for a while longer before calling it a night. When it came time for R to head home, she was about to call an Uber. But I offered to let her crash at my place since I could drive her back in the morning on my way to work. She agreed, and we went back to my place. Yeah, we were both a bit drunk. But nothing crazy. We ended up sharing my bed, nothing new for friends crashing at each other's places, and at first, it was just a bit awkward. Then, out of nowhere, she asked if I wanted to cuddle. I didn't see any harm in it. So I said sure. Not even 2 minutes later, she asked if I wanted to have sex. I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't going to say no either. Things escalated from there, and we ended up having sex. It was good, and everything seemed fine. She even told me not to worry and that she was on the pill. So I didn't have to pull out. The next morning, I woke up to a message from about an upcoming vacation we had planned with the group. I knew what had happened with R wasn't going to be a secret for long. So I decided to be upfront with him. I sent him a message letting him know that I had slept with R, figuring it was better to come from me than anyone else. When I got back to my room, R was furious. She couldn't believe I told A and she said she didn't want him to know. I told her I wasn't going to keep secrets from him. And before I could say anything more, she'd already called an Uber and left. That's when everything started to spiral. O was livid. Understandably, but what I didn't expect was how R would spin the situation. She started telling everyone in the group that I had taken advantage of her, that I'd gotten her drunk and pressured her into sex. I couldn't believe it. We were both drunk, sure, but everything that happened was consensual. She was the one who initiated it, but nobody seemed to care about my side of the story. Suddenly, the whole group turned their backs on me. O wasn't mad at R at all. In fact, it seemed like he was buying into her story that I was the one who had crossed the line. Even P, my best friend who had introduced me to the group, told me we weren't friends anymore. He said he regretted ever introducing me to them. That one stung the most. P and I had talked before about how attractive R was. And I know for a fact that he would have done the same thing if he'd been in my position. But now, he was acting like I was the villain. Even M, the guy who had been trying to hook up with R himself that night, was siding with them. He was the one who'd been telling me to take a shot at her. And now he was pretending like he wasn't a part of any of it. The hypocrisy was unbelievable. To make matters worse, I'd been uninvited from everything. The group had plans to go to a concert the next night. And I was told not to even show my face there. I said I wasn't welcome anymore. I'd also been uninvited from the out-of-state vacation we had planned. The flights, the hotel, everything was already paid for. But apparently, I wasn't part of the group anymore. I get that A is upset. I would be too if I were in his shoes. But the way R has twisted things is making it so much worse. She's playing the victim, and everyone is buying it. Nobody is holding her accountable for anything. It's like she gets a free pass because she's A's ex. And I'm the one left out in the cold. I've tried explaining my side of the story to a few people in the group. But it feels like nobody's listening. They've already made up their minds. In their eyes, I'm the one who screwed everything up. I keep going over that night in my head, trying to figure out where things went wrong. We were both drunk, but it wasn't like either of us was out of control. She made the first move. She was the one who asked if I wanted to have sex. But none of that seems to matter anymore. The narrative has already been set. And I'm the villain in this story. Now I'm left trying to figure out what to do next. This friend group was a huge part of my life for the past year. And now it's all gone. PAM. All of them have turned their backs on me. It's like I've been erased from the group overnight. And there's nothing I can do about it. The worst part is, I didn't even want to keep things a secret. I told her right away because I didn't want to hide anything from him. I thought that being honest would at least give me a chance to explain. But it's all blown up in my face. R is telling everyone that I took advantage of her. And I feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't do. I don't know how things got so out of control. But here I am, cut off from the people I thought were my friends. I keep thinking about that night, wondering if I could have done something differently. But I don't see what. I didn't force her to do anything. We were both drunk, yes, but we were both on the same page, or so I thought. Now, I'm left wondering if I'll ever be able to clear my name. If I'll ever get my friends back. Or if I'm just going to have to accept that they've chosen to believe her side of the story. No matter what I say. It's a lonely feeling, being cast out like this. And I'm not sure what comes next.
When my ex and I broke up 4 months ago, I knew it was the right decision. But I never anticipated how complicated things would get afterward. We've both been stuck in this awkward situation of still living together. Not because we want to, but because the housing market in our city is brutal. Apartments are expensive and hard to come by. And while I've found a new place, I can't move in until next month. So, for the time being, we've been coexisting in this weird, liminal space where we're not together, but still sharing a home. The breakup itself wasn't dramatic, no huge fights or betrayals. It was more like a slow, painful unraveling of what we once had. We had been fighting more and more. And his heart just wasn't in the relationship anymore. He told me he didn't have the mental capacity for a relationship. That he needed to focus on himself. I tried to make things better in the months leading up to the breakup. I gave him space when he asked for it. Tried to communicate more openly. And even planned cute, romantic dates in an attempt to rekindle what we had lost. But nothing seemed to work. I felt like I was giving everything. And getting nothing in return. Eventually, I had to admit that it wasn't going to get better. We were both miserable, and the relationship couldn't continue like that. In the first few weeks after the breakup, we managed to get along surprisingly well. It wasn't perfect. Of course, it's never easy to live with someone after a breakup, but we were cordial. We respected each other's space and boundaries. It wasn't ideal, but it was manageable. I kept telling myself that it was temporary. That soon I'd be in my own place and we could both move on with our lives. But things started to change. After a few weeks, my ex began going out more. He started drinking and partying. Things he never really did when we were together. He made a new friend. A woman he met through mutual acquaintances. After just 2 months of knowing her, he started calling her his best friend. He would stay over at her place sometimes. And while he assured me multiple times that they were just friends, It still stung. A mutual friend confirmed that they weren't romantically involved. But that didn't make it any easier to watch him spend time with her. He was doing all the things we used to do, going to bars, having late-night talks, laughing like he hadn't in months, and it hurt. It felt like he was moving on without ever really reflecting on the breakup, while I was still stuck in the emotional wreckage of what we had. I tried not to let it bother me too much. But the truth is, it did. Seeing him out there, living his life like nothing had happened, while I was still trying to pick up the pieces, felt unfair. It was like he had just flipped a switch and moved on, while I was still processing everything. I spent a lot of time focusing on myself, leaning on my family and friends for support, and trying to heal. But as the weeks went by, I found myself wanting to move on too. I didn't want to sit around being sad forever. I wanted to put myself out there again, even if it was just for a casual date. I wasn't looking for a new relationship. Just something light, something to remind me that I was still capable of feeling something for someone else. I didn't tell my ex that I was thinking about dating again, mostly because I didn't think it was his business. We had agreed not to bring anyone home, and I was sticking to that. I figured, as long as I wasn't crossing that boundary, it didn't really matter what I did. After all, we weren't together anymore. We had our own lives now, and I was ready to start exploring mine again. Last night, I went on my first date since the breakup. It wasn't anything serious, just dinner and drinks with a guy the first met through a dating app. It felt good to get dressed up, to go out and have a conversation with someone new. For the first time in months, I felt a little bit like myself again. The date itself went well enough, nothing earth-shattering. But it was fun, and I didn't feel any pressure for it to be more than it was. I wasn't expecting fireworks, just a nice evening out. When I got home, my ex was already in bed, so I didn't think much of it. But somehow, he figured out that I had been on a date. Maybe it was the way I came in, or maybe he'd just gotten good at reading me after all our time together. Either way, the next morning, he was upset. He accused me of going on the date just to hurt him, to get back at him for spending time with his new friend. He told me that I was being petty and that I only went on the date because I was jealous of him and his best friend. I didn't even know what to say. Yes, his new friendship made me uncomfortable. Of course it did. It's hard to watch someone you were in love with move on so quickly, even if it's just with a friend. But that wasn't why I went on the date. I went because I'm a grown woman, and I have needs too. I didn't want to sit around wallowing in my feelings forever. I wanted to get back out there, to remind myself that there's life after a breakup. And the truth is, I'm not the one who ended the relationship. He did. He's the one who said he didn't have the mental space for a relationship. So why should he get to move on and live his life while I'm stuck pretending I don't want to? His reaction surprised me. We had broken up. We were both living our own lives. So why was he so upset about me going on a date? I thought we were past all of that. I hadn't brought anyone home. I hadn't crossed any lines. And yet he was acting like I had done something wrong. It didn't make sense to me. And the more I thought about it, the more frustrated I became. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was just trying to move on, the same way he seemed to be doing with his new friend. It made me question everything. Why was he so upset? Was there more going on with his new friend than he was letting on? Or was he just upset because he didn't like the idea of me moving on before he was ready for me to? It felt like a double standard. He was allowed to go out, make new friends, and live his life. But the moment I tried to do the same, I was the bad guy. It wasn't like I was rushing into anything. I had taken time to heal, to focus on myself, and now I was ready to put myself out there again. But his reaction made me feel like I was doing something wrong, even though I knew I wasn't. We were broken up. We weren't together anymore. I didn't owe him an explanation for what I did with my time, just like he didn't owe me one. But somehow, his anger made me second-guess myself. I don't know if I'm the asshole for dating while we're still living together. I understand that it's a sensitive situation, and maybe it's uncomfortable for him to know that I'm seeing other people while we're still sharing a space. But it's not like we're going to be living together forever. I'm moving out soon, and I need to start living my life again. I don't want to put my life on hold just because our living situation isn't ideal. At the same time, I don't want to hurt him. I know breakups are hard. And even though we've been trying to keep things civil, there are still raw emotions involved. But I can't ignore my own needs either. I want to move on. I want to date. I want to feel like myself again. And I don't think that makes me a bad person. We broke up because the relationship wasn't working. And now we're both trying to move on in our own ways. I guess I just didn't expect him to be so upset about it. Part of me wonders if he's still holding on to something. Some hope that we might get back together. But that's not where my head is at. I know that we're done. And I'm okay with that. I just wish he could be too. As I sit here, thinking about everything that's happened, I can't help but feel conflicted. I'm not trying to hurt him. But I also can't put my life on pause for the sake of his feelings. We're both adults. And breakups are messy. There's no perfect way to handle it. But at the end of the day, I have to do what's right for me. Even if that means making decisions that he doesn't agree with. So here I am, trying to navigate the awkwardness of living with an ex while also trying to move on with my life. It's not easy, and it's definitely not fun. But I know that once I move into my new place, things will get better. I'll have my own space. And we can both start fresh. Until then, I'm just trying to figure out how to balance my needs with his feelings. And hoping that we can both come out of this without any more hurt than necessary. Am I the asshole for dating while still living with my ex? I don't think so. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is one of those situations where there's no clear right or wrong. Just a whole lot of gray.